Hello and welcome back to the Bring Your Big Energy podcast. Today I am joined with Amy Faust. Hi, Amy.
Hey, how are you?
Good to see you again. Amy is so interesting. Her story is such a powerful example of what it means to choose yourself, even when or especially when it's hard. In the midst of the pandemic, approaching a major life milestone, she found herself living alone for the first time as an adult. And in that moment, she was faced with a very real decision. She could stay stuck in depression, anger, and isolation, or she could step into a healing journey. She could reinvent her life and begin using her voice to help others. So, what followed was a process of learning how to live authentically, which is what the Bring Your Big Energy podcast is all about. And she learned how to truly love herself and how to show other women what that can look like as well. So today we're going to be here to unpack her journey because this is what I call an intensity point, as a lot of my listeners know. And that's that moment where something shifts and you can't go back to the way that you were before. And what you do next, that's what really changes everything. So, Amy, I'd love to take you back in the spirit of Essence Spark, which is self reflection. When you were entering that new chapter, when you were living alone for the first time, in the midst of what was a crazy global pandemic, what was that season really like for you? And when did you realize something needed to change?
Well, thank you so much for that introduction. And initially, I was kind of kicking and screaming because I didn't really want to have that part of my life disrupted, but it happened. And at first, I was, as you mentioned, I was in a depression. I kind of laid around. I kind of, went through that. It's kind of like a grieving process. And then I went through a little anger where I'd punch a punching bag, maybe break some stuff, do a little bit of that. So, after a while, after you do that for a little bit, you're like, okay, this can't be all there is to life. This is not, this is not where life has gone for me. And of course, you're, approaching a milestone and you're in your age and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to do something with this. It was great because in the pandemic, they're like, get outside, go do this, go walk. And so that's kind of where my healing began. I started just taking baby steps. Like I would walk the lake near my house and just, well, the scenery's beautiful. Oh, look at the flowers. And just it kind of evolved from there because I was just in a funk. It was kind of like, okay, enough already.
Yeah. Did it feel like it was one moment for you, like one intensity moment, or did it feel like it was something that was built over time?
I think it was probably built over time. I think you definitely have to take baby steps. And when people say it's a healing journey, it is still a healing journey. Even today, if something triggers you or whatever, you're like, okay, I'm going to react differently than I used to. Okay, let me redo this a little bit. So it is a journey.
How did you come to that realization, like, I need to try something different?
Well, you really get, I mean, for me, and that's not the case for everyone. Some people are stuck and they don't know how to get out of it. But it was just like, okay, I'm sick of myself. I can't wallow in this. And I'm just not one. I'm a doer, I'm constantly doing something and moving. So it was unlike me to begin with. And then, of course, I'm going through therapy and doing all that different therapy modalities besides a traditional therapist, doing a little meditating, I'm doing a little praying. And it just it's like a gradual thing. And all of a sudden you're kind of, okay, well, now I'm healing. Okay, now what? And why am I, even though I didn't want to be in that place, I was married 29 years. I didn't want to be in that place at that time. But at the same time, it allowed me to sit in the quiet, which is something I totally was not used to. And realizing that, you know what, there's probably a lot of wounds as a child that weren't healed. I went into my marriage with those. And so that probably made a huge difference in how I behaved in my marriage. Not to say that it was all one fault or the other, but you start to kind of just turn within, kind of look within and go, okay, why am I here? How did I react? How did I behave? What can I do differently so that I don't ever repeat this cycle?
Yeah. And you said you described it as living alone for the first time in your adult life. That's such a powerful statement. So, what did that look like after 29 years of having a partner?
At first, it was kind of scary. It's
Mhm.
like, okay, this is weird. I'm in a totally new space. And then, I'm in an apartment. So I'm in a kind of a confined space. I don't have all the, space to roam or whatever. And then I didn't know how to cook for one person, for crying out loud. I still don't know how to do that because I'm like, okay, aren't I having lots of guests over here? Surely everybody wants to come eat. So now I just still cook a lot, but I put it in the freezer. So it's okay.
Perfect. Perfect. So at some point along the way, you make this decision to not stay stuck, but to begin this healing journey. So what shifted for you in those moments and how did you start reconnecting with who you really were?
Well, some of the things that I say in my writing is I started dating myself. And so take yourself on dates. And that may look, it's not just for the person that's been through a divorce, a breakup, or whatever. In my case, I went to fancy restaurants and sat at the bar and ate a steak and had a glass of wine. And if I wanted to talk to people, I did. And if I didn't, I didn't. But for that younger person that needs time to themselves, hand the children over to your partner and say, okay, I need a bubble bath. I need a date with myself. And so that kind of started, okay, you're going to start taking care of yourself because as you're raising kids, that you're on the back burner. You're not thinking about, I need a bubble bath. I need a fancy dinner by myself. So you have to start dating yourself. That's one thing that I tell people to do.
I love that. And in that process, what did you learn about yourself?
I learned a lot because the other part of dating yourself is trying new things. So it's like, okay, I'm going to try this. Yeah. Okay. I don't like that. I'm scared of heights, so I think I'll go parasailing. So
Of course.
you're like, okay, let's try it. And so you just kind of go through things. It's kind of trial and error, really. You had never been on the back of a motorcycle before, so drive across the country on the back of a motorcycle. I mean, just little things here and there. And you start, I always say it's things that set your soul on fire. And so that's where you try to find that authenticity. It's like, okay, I don't like this. Oh, yeah, I like oh, I really like this. I need to do more of this. One of those things was I went with my married friends to see a lot of live music. And so I learned that that's something I really enjoy. I have to find that either in the fall or in the spring, places to go and listen to music. I like it. So you learn a lot more about yourself for sure.
What do you think surprised you most in the process?
I think I was more surprised that the things that I really like, I hadn't been doing them really all along. Um,
Mm.
and that's probably, I don't know if it was fear initially in my former life, if it was just taking the time to think, okay, what do you really like? But those things that I was afraid to do, I tried. So I guess it was a win-win.
How did you push through the fear? Because yes, I get that. There's definitely a lot of things come with fear. How did you push through that or how did you develop that? Because if that was something that a skill you didn't feel like potentially you had prior, how did you start to push through that?
Trial and error again and repetition. I'm like, okay, so at first I'm on the back of this boat. They're going to suck you up and you're going to parasail. And I'm closing my eyes. I'm like, I'm going to wet my pants. I can't do this. You just sit there and you do it. And then it's like, okay, this is peaceful. Okay, I kind of like this. Or zip lining down Fremont Street in Vegas. The first time you're like, oh, I can't. Oh my gosh, I can't do this. You're so strapped in and you're looking down the Fremont Street and it's like, oh no, this is going to be bad. Well, then the next time I went to, let's do that again. I want to do that. Let's do that. And so I'm like, I really like that. So you just kind of push through. It's almost like a gut punch, I guess you could say there for a moment. And then you just, okay, I'm going to do it. I don't like that. I don't think I'd do that again. I want to do that again. So you just gotta get your big girl pants on and just do it.
I love that. Absolutely. Absolutely. So if we go back, you talk about this moment where you're feeling lots of anger, like lots of emotions, depressed, isolated, and then somehow you get to the point where you're on Fremont Street, right? Going through the air. Talk to me a little bit more in depth with what that journey, and for anyone listening that is in the midst of it right now, talk about what worked for you on that journey and what that actually looked like, a little bit more detail for us.
So some of the things, and I talk about this and write about this as well, is I go through a thing like Truest You is kind of an acronym, trusting your gut instinct. If something feels bad or off or wrong, don't do it. If it feels like, well, this is just a fear that I can get over, then okay. Some things I say are recognizing that everybody's on a different journey. I had a girlfriend going through the same thing at the same time, and she's like, okay, I'm ready to go date. And I'm like, well, you do that. I'm not ready. So recognize that you're not on the same journey. If tomorrow you wake up and you want to go, then go. If your friend doesn't want to go, that's okay. It may take them 9 months, 10 months, 2 years. So those are some of the things that I tell people, the dating yourself, of course, and also thinking in the sense that yesterday is gone. The shoulda, coulda, woulda, it doesn't serve us for any purpose whatsoever. So you just look forward. I've got my blinders on or whatever. I'm looking forward and don't sit in the muck and the myrrh and the sadness and the woe is me, because there's so much more out there. And it's so much more than I realized, even when I was sitting in mine too.
Was there a pivotal moment there?
Think there was really a pivotal moment. I think it's just you have to make that conscious decision.
Mhm.
Of course, when you're prescribed antidepressants there for a while, it really helps.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Kill, this is okay. So
Yeah.
that really helped. But it's just surrounding yourself too with people that are positive, because they will lift you up. I did go through a bit where I didn't want to talk to anybody, I didn't want to see anybody, and I didn't have to go to the office. So that was fine. But then allow yourself to be vulnerable with people. Put yourself out there. Okay, it's okay if your friends want to go and do things, or you want to hang out with them or go listen to live music, but just don't isolate yourself.
Yeah, because it kind of happened at an interesting time, right? This global pandemic's going on. So how did that factor into it?
Well, it was perfect in the sense that you had patios outside. People were going, even I had traveled about 8 different states in the middle of the pandemic. And so there were all kinds of outdoor activities. So you weren't, you were separate from people, but it was something that I hadn't really done in a while. Go listen to the live music, go on the beach, do sorts, things like that. So the pandemic, it kind of forced you, so to speak, to get out, because you weren't going to the office. And they're like, get some exercise, do this, do that. And so it was kind of the perfect storm, really.
So for a while, you didn't talk to a lot of people. You weren't as vulnerable. As you start to wake up and have this awakening where you're ready to be vulnerable, what do you ask your community for?
Well, I am one that never asks for anything. I
Yeah, most of
really
us.
used to, it's like, I can do it. I can do it. I don't need any help. I can do it on my own. And so that was really hard to finally admit. And I only had a handful of friends that were really, truly there through everything. And it's really hard to admit that to them, I'm having a tough time. I'm not in a good place. Can you just hang out with me? Can you just call me? I had a friend come over and we canned peach jelly together. And so just finding little things that you can do, but don't be afraid to ask, because those people that are close to you and really care about you, they're going to be there. They're going to want to help you. They want to, talk to you, soothe you, comfort you, whatever. And so don't be afraid to ask, but you really, for coming from me, a person that never asked anybody for anything, it's like, I can't tell him that. Well, what can you do then? You've got to be vulnerable. That's the key. And even now, years later, you have to be vulnerable and authentic. You have to tell people, you have to share yourself with them. And yeah, it might sting, it might hurt, but over time, as you do that, it gets so much easier and it's so much better.
Yeah, so true. So true. Do you feel like, I feel like practicing vulnerability is actually a practice. Like it takes time. So, any advice on how you practiced that, or any advice on how to get better at that for the listeners that worked for you?
I think just doing it, and it's scary. Oh my gosh, it's scary. And it depends on who you're talking to. I was talking to someone, it's probably been 2 or 3 years ago, and talking about vulnerability. And they said, well, that's your superpower. And so I started thinking about that. Okay, I got my cape on. I am Wonder Woman. I can share this. So it's kind
Yeah.
of, it's kind of like that. You really, once you do it and once you see also how it helps someone else, that's huge, because you're telling a story or even a piece of your story and sharing your heart with someone that can relate to you. They're like, oh, wow, me too. I felt that also. I'm going through that as well. And so the more you do that and the more you see that it's a tool to use to help other people, it's almost like paying it forward. The more you do that, the better it feels about doing it and the easier it gets for you.
Absolutely. And that's what I always tell my leaders is when you lead with vulnerability, it actually increases your credibility. I think
Mm.
a lot of people are really worried that if they're vulnerable, that it's going to make them seem less than, or it's going to make them seem like, you know, damaged goods. And the reality is the more that we humanize our stories and we share the really hard stuff or the failures and things of that nature, the more we give others permission to do the same.
Yes.
Absolutely. Even when I started sharing my stories in my book and, on stages and all of those good things, I had so many people reaching out to me. It's like, I don't know. about breast cancer journey, which it happens to be my journey, but I can tell you I'm living with like crippling anxiety, and you and your tools and your stories to help overcome the things that you went through have helped me to get through my anxiety issues. And so it's this beautiful thing where it brings us all together in this humanness, regardless of what it is that we're walking with. And everyone's walking with something, whether we
That's
like it
right.
or not.
You learn that. You definitely learn that there is no, we're not vacuuming our house with our pearls like the Leave It to Beaver, kind of thing. We
Wow.
all have something, whatever that may be.
It's so true. So let's talk a little bit about reinvention actually always requires letting go of something, right? That's an old version of ourselves, old stories, old expectations. So what did you have to abandon or release, whether that was the beliefs, patterns, parts of your identity maybe, to step into this newer version of yourself?
So you hit the nail on the head when it comes to expectations. That's
Okay.
something that I probably did that was probably a downfall and a fault that I had in my marriage was expecting him, to say this thing, to do this thing, to act this way, and setting yourself up for failure is just, it's you're expecting so much of a person. I think that's the biggest thing that I probably did is let go of all those expectations. I don't expect anybody to say anything, do anything. If I invite you somewhere, you want to go? Fine. You don't? That's fine too. I don't expect anything. And that's what I think that's key in your healing journey because if you expect something, it's going to set you up for failure. It's just like, I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, can't do it, can't do it. So that's probably the biggest thing that I changed about myself was having those expectations in people and expectations in yourself. I place the most expectations on myself to perform or to keep doing or do, go, 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 go. Cause that was my nature. That's what I did with my children. That's how I survived. But allowing yourself the rest, don't expect
Mm.
yourself, okay, I don't feel good, then don't go do it. Don't expect something that you're not willing to do or unable to do. So that's just key. That's the biggest word that I can probably say is expectations because that's a killer.
Yeah. Yes, that's so true. Did you feel like there was anything that you held on to longer than you should have?
Probably. I probably held on to a little bit of anger longer than I should have. And oddly enough, I know I was a Christian and everything before, but oddly enough, prayer and reconnecting my life to God and realizing that I'm holding on to something. He forgives me, so why am I not giving forgiveness over here? That was huge for me. And it gave me peace and I'm like, okay, I think I can let it go. But I was angry. I was definitely angry.
Yeah. Forgiveness it's such a hard thing, and especially in anger is such a hard thing. I remember reading a quote somewhere, and this is what I do on the show. I always say a quote, I always butcher it, I can't cite it, but something about like being mad at someone or angry at someone is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It
Yeah.
really just doesn't do anything for you except for you're drinking the poison. So I think that that's so key. And when we think about forgiveness, is there anything for the listeners that helped you to be better at that forgiveness piece? Prayer sounds like one thing that helped.
Mhm.
Any other kind of thoughts on forgiveness? Because I think that's a big one that I hear from the listeners.
The self-help books during that time. So besides the prayer, besides going to a therapist, besides meditation, besides reading a lot of self-help books. So it takes all of that really. Hanging out with positive people, adopting an attitude of gratitude, being grateful because every time you go somewhere else or you look at someone else, there's something about your life that may be better than someone else's. So you do attend to, well, thanks. I woke up today, I'm breathing. Okay, well, thanks for the great weather. Okay, you just build on that and build on that until you become grateful for everything. It takes away that sting of anger. It takes away from holding that resentment in because how can you have both things going on at the same time? How can I be angry and resentful and be like, this is wonderful. I'm grateful. So it's like a battle in and of itself. So I think all of those things combined, I think are probably key.
I love that. So gratitude is a very,
Mm.
very sharp tool as we think about forgiveness, as we think about the release on anger. I love that so much. I love that. So did you have points in your journey where you start on your healing journey and it's going great, but did you have places that you kind of fell back into old habits or darker days? And how did you think about that?
I think sometimes I did because it's human nature to take 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. And I think sometimes it was the depression a little bit. I would say I would be having a bad day or something was difficult and I just wanted to sit there and cry. I'm like, stop, stop, stop. You can't help it, but it's happening and you have to deal with that. So it's, reverting back to, and the other part of that is sometimes it's okay to cry, not wallow in it, cry. But I was always told for a long time that I wear my emotions on my shirt sleeve and, I'm too emotional and I'm sappy also. So, viewed that as a weakness, but really it is a strength. And so that goes along with the vulnerability as well. But allowing yourself that when you need it, but then just don't wallow in it. I mean, you got to balance that.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I always tell my kids, I'm like, we're going to cry about this for 5 minutes and then we're going to move on. I mean,
That's
some
right.
therapists tell me it's probably like 5 minutes isn't it long enough, but whatever. That's kind of the rule of thumb that I use, depending how big the thing is. Maybe it's 5 days if it's a really big thing, but I do agree. Then you need to practice gratitude and watch for your wonderful happening out there. So you've done this work and now you're helping other women do this, which is so great. How are you showing up differently today because of this journey and how you live or how you love yourself or how you use your voice?
I think I take everything that I learn, and it's really a self-taught kind of thing. It's not something where you go to a class and you learn, although I did take a positivity coaching class, but outside of that,
Yeah.
and that was really mostly for myself, not because I do that. But I think that now I am grateful for everything. And there is good in the world, and there are good people in the world. Although, if you're ever on a dating app, you might begin to think differently.
It's so true.
Just saying, over 50 on a dating app is, yeah, anyway. But there are
Yeah.
good people. There are good people, and I met my current partner outside of the dating app, so that was good.
Right.
So I just think now I don't let things bother me. I don't have expectations. I'm much happier. I feel like I get down sometimes, but things just don't bother me like they used to. I used to dwell on things and I used to take things to heart and take it personally and things like that. And I find I don't do that anymore. I just feel like lighter. I feel freer. I feel more myself.
I love that. So talk to us about how you're helping other women. So you have the book called Finding Your Truest You, right? Talk to us a little bit about what you do to help through the book, what the book's about, and then other things that you're doing to help women take sort of the same, not the same journey, but help them along a journey that might be similar to yours.
So I wrote in a couple of collaborative books before I actually wrote my own book. And I never fancied myself a writer before. It was kind of I've had a friend write in a book and then I wrote in the next one. And then I felt when I did that, I felt like, wow, I kind of have more to say. There's more to the story than just that. So I wrote my book as well. And at the end of the year, I added a 365 journal prompt. So you can use that with the book, which is kind of like a tool to get people to journal, first of all, and then to ask these odd questions, strange questions, thought provoking questions about, what would you do differently 10 years ago or just different things so you can do it separately or you can do it along with the book because a lot of it goes along with that. I have done some speaking engagements, both to smaller and larger groups. I was on the path of coaching individually, but I don't think that's where I can be most beneficial. Oddly enough, one of the things that I also did during my healing journey was volunteer more. And so I find it fascinating. We have this haircut event that's been going on for like 8 years. And so I've been a part of it for about 6 of those years through my divorce. And I get an opportunity to talk to these homeless women that it's really interesting because you begin to be that gratefulness is off the chart when you're talking to someone else in that predicament. But hearing their stories it's kind of therapeutic for me too. And then being able to speak to them about something that I did or how it helped me, a totally different life. They may, don't have a home or they're working on their way to getting a job or whatever the case may be. They may be in a shelter. Having the opportunity to talk to them, it's more than just sharing myself with them. It's them sharing themselves, but it's therapeutic to me as well. I don't know how else to explain that. So right now it's really just the writing, the reading, and the speaking engagements for the moment. I think I'll create a course out of my book at some point. I'm writing another book this year. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment.
That's great. So what's in the book? Tell us what's in the book.
So Finding Your Truest You. And as I said before, it's an acronym, Truest You. trusting your instincts and all of those things. So it's my story, but it's kind of like tips and tricks. So as I said before, how I took meditation, took prayer, took all these different things. And I thought, well, maybe I can have kind of a manual, kind of a guide for things that people can do to get from point A to point B. And so it's not the end all be all. And some people may do different things, but it's kind of a suggestive guide for folks that are going through either their healing journey or they're trying to overcome something. And then what it looks like on the other side. Even one chapter is about what it looks like on the other side of healing. What does life look like on the other side of healing? So that currently is where I'm at.
Right. So what does that look like for you then?
Well, it looks like opening your heart again when your heart gets beat up or when it gets hard. Never think, and as I said, it took some detours and the forks in the road, some 3 steps forward, 2 steps back kind of thing with the dating journey.
Sure.
So, but now I feel like the person that I have been with, I can be myself. If I forget something and I, beat myself up before, I don't do that anymore. Or if I say the wrong thing, I'm like, oh, sorry, I don't apologize nearly as much as I used to apologize for being me. And I just feel like there's an openness there. There's a comfort zone that I don't think I felt for a really long time. And so I think this side of the healing journey, that's what it looks like, is being real, being yourself. I take that into my workplace, into my corporate job, being myself, being available to people if they ask questions, being vulnerable and sharing some of my story to those women in my office. So it's good. It's a good place to be.
That is so it's well, it's giving like alignment. Like I'm seeing alignment. I'm seeing
Mhm.
empowerment for you, authenticity. And that again, those are all the elements of what I call big energy that come together to create that kinetic energy that really helps you to have the sustainable, beautiful life that truly is your truest
Mhm.
self or truly is the most authentic version of you. So if someone's listening right now, what would you want them to know if they're stuck right now? What would you want them to know that is one step for them to take that they can start to move forward?
Well, probably it would be to follow your heart, follow your gut instincts, whether you say it's the person on your shoulder, the voice in the back of your mind, your heart, your gut, whatever it is. If things feel off or feel like they are not what they should be or not where they should be or not who you should be with, follow your gut instincts. Take that first step, whatever it is, where you want to go eat, what you want to do, the people you hang out with, those kinds of things. Follow your heart, follow your gut instincts is probably the first thing I would tell someone.
I love that. How does one do that? How does one know if their gut instinct is right?
Well, you're not always going to be right. I'll just tell you
That's
that right
fair.
now.
That's fair. Yes.
Because sometimes you jack things up, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because we're human. I don't know how to describe it. It is such a feeling like if you're talking to someone, and I'll just relate this to the dating world. If you're talking to someone and they begin to go down a road that you are not comfortable with, and you start, your stomach starts to feel sour, and you're like, okay, thank you for the lunch. I'll see you later. Move on. Move on. Just listen to that. I don't think I listened to myself enough early on, especially because I was 19 years old when I got married. But I don't think I listened to myself. And I don't think there's a bad way to do that. There's not the perfect way. And again, you're going to feel something, but then it could be wrong. But don't be afraid for it to be wrong. That's just it. I think I lived on eggshells for a while. I was afraid if something was wrong. I did something wrong. I said something wrong. I behaved the wrong way. You're going to do that. It's okay. It's all right. You're human.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just trying it again or trying it a different way or reflecting and iterating. Absolutely. What question do you wish I asked you, or what else would you want to tell the listeners today?
I don't know. Each podcast interview is different, and I never wish for or what I try to just go with the flow. Whatever you ask me, I don't. So I don't know that I would say I would wish that you would have asked me anything else. It's been great speaking with you and speaking to your audience for sure. That's just the part of being authentic, and that the spontaneity and the I don't have anything planned. We say what we say. We're having a conversation amongst us girlfriends, and so that's the way I feel about it.
Love that. Okay, Amy, where can people find you and find your book and find your new book coming out, all the things?
My website is my-resilient-journey.com. And on
Okay.
Facebook and Instagram, it's Amy DeAnne, AmeyDeanne. Blame my parents in the 60s and 70s. They were kind of doing some weird stuff.
Love that. And then your book is Finding Your Truest You. Is that available on your website, on Amazon? Where can they buy that book?
Both on my website. I have a little store of the collaborative books I've been part of, and on Amazon as well.
Wonderful. What are the collaborative books, the names of those books?
Shine Your Light, Transforming
Okay.
Pain into Purpose. And then the most recent one that just came out last month was Leader Up. So I take that authenticity and vulnerability into the workplace. And my chapter is about exactly that.
I love that. I love that. Any tips? I have a lot of leaders that listen to this. Any tips for leaders, I guess, before we go? I didn't realize you had that piece of it.
I think just exactly what you said earlier. You get so much more out of your teams. If you will show up authentic and show some vulnerability, you're not this person in the ivory tower that people, I can't go talk to them, or you're not, this is my open door policy or that sort of thing. It's more than that. You have gone through this, or you're struggling today, or maybe you don't have the answers, because sometimes I don't have the answers in my corporate role as well. And I'm going to find the answer. I don't know, but let me get back to you. So don't be afraid to be vulnerable and authentic at work, because I think you get more out of your people that way.
I completely agree. I think when you have your guard up and you're trying to be flawless and you're trying to know all the answers, number one, it's just too much pressure and it leads to burnout. But number two, you don't get the perspectives of your team either. So
Yeah.
I completely agree. Amy, it's been such a pleasure. Thanks for hanging out with us on the show
Yeah.
today. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, Stacey. I appreciate you.
All right, take care.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.